Welcome, Charlie, to the podcast. How are you doing? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. It's really good
Good.
to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate the time. So, I've recently had a baby, and my sort of relationship was quite a public relationship. So, I had a lot of questions about sort of and I'm into health and fitness, and that's one of the things that I do. I coach people on that. So, I've had quite a lot of questions from people on social media, from people asking me about sort of postnatal training, things like that. So, I wanted to get someone on the podcast that knew what they were doing. So, I had a look on Instagram, and your profile's amazing. You've got loads and loads of content out on that kind of thing. So kind of what I wanted to know was how did you get into what you are doing? What is it you do, and how you got into it? Bit of backstory.
Okay, I'll do a quick backstory. So I am qualified as a level 3 and 4 PT. I specialize in like lower back pain management. I thought that would be quite a good thing to specialize in because it covers most of the population at some stage. And I worked as a PT for all different types of clients for about 2 years until I worked in a mainstream gym, and then one of the other trainers, she'd sort of cornered the mum market, and it didn't really catch my eye much. I just thought, okay, she has all those mums coming to her, great. And then she came to me and said, look, I'm moving to up north of the country, and we were down south, so do you want to take on my clients? And I was fairly new in the industry, and you know how you've got to build up your client base. I was like, yeah, definitely. So she passed on to me like 12 clients, which was game changing at the time. And they were all pre and postnatal. Now none of them were in the very early stages of postnatal. I was like, okay, I'm going to do my qualification as I'm going. And they were all sort of okay with that because they were through that sort of critical bit. And I learned as I went with them, which was great because they were sort of helping me along, explaining what they were feeling, how they were going through their pregnancy, because I hadn't had any kids at that point. And I sort of was enjoying that, but also enjoying training other clients. And then one day I got an email from somebody saying, I've been recommended to come to you because you're the postnatal specialist in the area. And you know, I replied to the message being like, yes, I am. But in my head I was thinking, oh my god, am I? And then I thought, do you know what, actually I really like this niche in the market, because you know, as a personal trainer you sort of need to find some sort of niche, because otherwise you're going to get
very
lost.
saturated.
You're going to get lost in the whole sea of personal trainers. And I really found a passion in helping women in this phase of their life, because it was such an important one for them. They felt so vulnerable, so confused, a lot of them, and to be part of that journey with them was really, really great. So I thought, okay, you know what, maybe this is going to be my speciality. I did a few more, well, I think consistently, you just have to keep learning, don't you? Did a few more courses, really honed in on my speciality. And then a gym, like a boutique gym in Chelsea in London, so exactly where you want to be training clients, contacted me and said, we see that you're doing pre and postnatal. I think I had trained one of the owner's friends, so he got like an inside info into how I work. And he said, I've come up with this idea, I want to do a pre and postnatal, you know, in the gym, bring the babies in, get the mums involved that way, but I don't have any time or resource to do it. Do you want to set this up with me? So jumped to the chance at that. And then I think I was there for 4 years, maybe 5, and halfway through it was like, hang on a second, this is growing way too big. It was just like a lifting gym, so we had like guys and girls lifting, you know, deadlifting these huge weights, and then literally next to them was this baby crawling around, and I was going, I just don't think this is really appropriate to have the two so closely combined, just mainly because of danger. So I said, look, I'm going to take the business out, and I'll get a studio on its own. The owner actually said, you know what, I've got enough to do here, you take the brand. So I went from being co-founder and then from doing it solely on my own. And whilst I was looking for a studio, I took all my clients and I said, let me just come to your house while I do it. I'll come to your house, I bring all the equipment. And within about 2 weeks, every single one said, oh my God, it's way better when you come to me, because they would always bring their baby to the sessions. I would put them in a carrier, I would, you know, feed them a bottle, I would play with them, do whatever it took, because I really am passionate about that time being for the mum and not like a mum and baby class. I want the baby to be there if they want, but it's not about the baby, it's about the mum. And then they said, when I came to their house,
love that.
Well, I just think there's a lot of things out there that's like baby massage class and you know, buggy boot camps and things. And I think just because you've had a baby doesn't mean that you're not
You
able to
lose
focus on
yourself.
yourself. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And I'm sure we'll come on to that a little bit later as well.
definitely. I've got a few questions on
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
So basically, I just said, you know what, maybe I don't need a studio. Maybe this is it. I just travel around to people's houses. But the problem was, like, how I can only see so many people a day because I have travel time then and all that kind of thing. So I started recruiting other trainers that were based around the country in different places, and spent my time sort of making sure they were qualified, checking out how they train people. And then it went from like a referral system. So I would set people up with the trainer in the area. Then lockdown happened, and I was always like, I'm not an online trainer. No, this is not how it goes. For pre and postnatal, you should really be with them. And then I waited and I waited and I waited. And then I thought, oh my God, I'm going to have to go online. So I put on Instagram, does anyone want a pregnancy workout? Because I was pregnant at this point with my first. And it was an overwhelming yes. So I was so nervous to do it online. I made my husband like go in the kitchen. I was like, do not listen. I'm going to teach this class. And it was such a success. And by the end of my pregnancy, so that was summer of the first lockdown, I was doing like 5 online classes a week just on Instagram for free. And the following just grew and grew and grew.
Yeah.
And then cut to now, I've turned it into an online membership platform where you can either become a rolling monthly member or you can buy like a pregnancy package or postnatal package. So in my second pregnancy, as each week went by, I filmed strength, cardio, stretching. Like I had a yoga teacher and a Pilates teacher come and help me too. So that now there is this complete pregnancy package week by week, following my bump getting bigger and bigger.
That's amazing.
And the same on the other side. So postnatal, as soon as I was doing my rehab, I filmed it, 12-week plan. And so that,
you were the case study in your own
which I think
really.
was nice, because when I've had people come back and say, do you know what, it's so nice to see that your baby is kicking off in the background, because my baby also was. And you know, me going, oh, my legs are sore, I'm so heavy at the end of pregnancy. And they like the fact that they know it's safe because I'm doing it right in front of them. So that's where I am now. I'm able to see many more clients because I can see them all in one go and all over the world. So COVID really changed my business plan, but
it changed a lot of people's business plans, especially when it comes to sort of like health and fitness. There was a big move, wasn't there? And then everyone started doing it. So but what you said about how it all came about, it kind of came about by accident. It was similar with me. I spoke about it a little bit on the last podcast, but I got into health and fitness really through just enjoying lifting weights when I was younger, and then I got into bodybuilding, and then off the back of bodybuilding I did my sort of personal training things, and then I went on a TV program, and then I came out and my demographic was like sort of females around sort of 20 to 40 really. So I had to transition across from sort of bodybuilding to coaching like females to lose weight. And it's the same, similar sort of principles, but that it was like different coaching people. And like what you said about doing it and like educating yourself whilst you're doing it. It's the saying, isn't it? You jump and grow your wings on the way down. You
very much so.
You've got to
but I think it's important to do that, because you're working for your clients. So even now I have people message me, oh, it'd be so great if you could do a class like this. And enough messages come through on the same thing. I think, okay, if that's what you want, I'm going to do that, because I'm not doing it for me, am I? I'm doing it for the people who want to join in. So obviously I'm doing what I know is good for them, but also mixing it in with what I know they like to do, because as we all know, if you don't enjoy it, you're just not going to stick at it.
Not going to stick at it. Yeah, 100%. And exactly like you said, that's kind of what I'm doing speaking to you now. I'm wanting to, because I over the past couple of years, I've had a couple of, well, I think maybe 3 or 4 clients that have fell pregnant whilst I've been coaching them.
I'm sure.
And I've said to them, look, I think it's best if we just, and it was like a mutual agreement sort of thing, saying like, look, I'm probably not the best person to coach you through this, because I've got no experience in it. There's a lot at stake. And I know that health and fitness is massively important through as well pregnancy, but I was like, look, I think you're best off just focusing on yourself. I don't want to be putting pressure on you because I don't know about it. So the more I educate myself on this kind of thing, it's going to be easier for me if that ever does happen, to be like,
well, you should. You've got the perfect, I mean, coaching women of that age bracket, you are bound to get women getting pregnant in that time. So it's more just the confidence and the knowledge, because actually when it comes down to it, there is not too much that needs to change.
I'm sure I kind of knew that subconsciously, but it was more just the confidence,
Yeah.
and there's a lot on the line, and I didn't want to put that extra pressure on them. But I know that it's like, you don't have to do it, but it's one of the best things that you can do through life, but especially through pregnancy. Just trying to stay
it's
healthy, trying to
amazing.
stay active.
Yeah, I mean, your body goes through so much, and if you can stay strong,
Yeah,
and strong doesn't mean lifting heavy weights. It could just be body weight strength. But
yeah,
if you can stay strong, and on top of those postural changes that are going to happen, you're going to have a much more enjoyable pregnancy, because you're not going to have crippling back pain, pelvic pain. You know, you're going to be helping yourself, but also you're preparing for a birth, which is, you know, not a walk in the park.
definitely not. It definitely surprised me. That, but we'll come on to all that in a minute. So kind of what I want to go through is like obviously the first 3 trimesters. So
Yeah.
how does health and fitness change, if it does have to change, or anything that you have to do through pregnancy, really?
So in the very first trimester, it's interesting, because women find out they're pregnant at all different stages. Some women go to like 11 weeks and they're like, oh my goodness, I had no idea I was pregnant. Some women find out really early on. Some women are doing IVF, so they find out even earlier. But really, in the first trimester, there isn't a lot that you need to change in terms of the exercise selection. So I get a lot of messages: can I still deadlift? Can I still do press up? Yes, you can literally do anything that makes you feel good. There's a few red flags and big no-nos, like overheating way too much. So if you were into hot yoga, for example, I wouldn't suggest that. You basically, your body cannot regulate its temperature. Sorry, your baby cannot regulate its temperature, so you do it for it, basically. So getting sweaty when you exercise is totally fine, but you don't want to set yourself up in a sauna, basically, to do your workout.
Anything too extreme.
Yeah, and then there's any sports where you've got a high risk of falling. So contact sports like netball. Well, netball's not supposed to be contact, but it definitely is. Netball, football, rugby, you know, all those kind of things. You want to minimize your risk of being pushed over. So that's, I mean, I'd love to think that was common sense, but sometimes it isn't. But when it comes to, you know, can I run? Can I squat? Can I do lunges? You can do all of those things as long as you feel good doing it. So a lot of women obviously have really severe nausea or sickness or exhaustion and stuff like that. And anything that makes you feel uncomfortable or in any pain at all, obviously, just take that as your body's sign that it's not happy with that move. It might be that you'll come back to it in your second trimester and it'd be fine again, but it may be that actually your body's just not happy with that. And I think now is the time, pregnancy is the time where we really need to listen to our body. We're not very good at it in life, are we? Like, I know before I got pregnant, but before my wedding, for example, I'd be running or whatever, and I just have a pull in my hamstring. I just think, oh, well, you know, keep going. No, in pregnancy, your body is really busy doing something amazing. And if it's telling you it doesn't like something, then there's probably a reason. So basically, whatever you've been doing before, if you're a CrossFitter, if you lift weights, if you do yoga, if you do spinning, as long as you feel okay continuing, then you definitely can. In terms of lying on your back, first trimester, you absolutely can. The baby, by this point, is still actually very much in the pelvis, very protected by bone. So lying on the back issue is not relevant in the first trimester. In fact, it's not really relevant till sort of halfway through the pregnancy. So then when we get into second trimester, some women have an amazing surge of energy and they stop feeling sick and it's really transformational. Some don't. I remember waking up on that like week 13 thinking, here we go, and I didn't have that like euphoric moment. It petered off very slowly for me. So again, it just depends on how you feel, and listen to that. If you suddenly feel like, you know what, I feel great running, go and run. But if you don't, then it's not for you. And now everyone will start to show a bit different times. So for me, my bump didn't start to really come out till closer to 20 weeks. Some people start showing at 10 weeks or whatever. And that bump growing is the sort of sign of the baby coming up and out of the pelvis into your tummy. And so as obviously we don't want to be lying on our tummy anyway, but in the first trimester probably it doesn't really matter too much. As that bump starts showing, that's your body's posture starting to change, because as you imagine, the bump comes out, your pelvis starts to tilt forwards a bit. You start to curve your back a bit more. If you imagine a heavily pregnant woman, you know how they stand with their back nice and arched. That will start to change and things start moving. So you just be aware of that when you are, you know, checking your posture on exercises. Again, there is no like, oh, you're week 14, you cannot do lunges anymore. You can continue to do every exercise until the end, but we need to think about adapting form as the bump starts growing. So obviously, as the bump comes out, things like squats and deadlifts, you may have to have your legs a bit wider, maybe toes facing out a bit. So you're just accommodating.
Is that more going
space.
off sort of feel of the exercise? So feeling if it doesn't feel right, squatting deep or squatting really like slowly, you've just got to play it more by ear, or is there more?
No, there's no like set rule book for that. Unfortunately, it'd be much easier if there was, but it's a sense of, you know, some women have pelvic pain if they have their legs too wide, so in that case bring them a bit closer, see if that helps. The TRX is really great actually for figuring out what squat position works, because you can take the weight off your body a little bit, sit back into it, just figure out what position works best for you. But obviously towards the end you need your legs really unladylike, really wide to fit the bump in. And then when it comes to things in a prone position, so in a plank position, press ups, you know, anything, rows, stuff like that, you want to start looking at your tummy, seeing what it does. So if you're, you know, really brilliant at doing planks in a full press up position, press ups in a full plank position, holding these positions, mountain climbers, that kind of thing, and you look down at your tummy when you're in that position and it looks completely normal to you, fine. That means that your core is pretty good at keeping the tension going and it's managing it really well. If you start seeing that pointing shape, so diastasis recti, which is used as a bit of a fear-mongering tool among health professionals online, which is a shame because women become so frightened of it. But every single woman, 100% of women, will have a diastasis recti by the end of their pregnancy. So that is basically the separation or the stretching apart of the abdominals. And if you think about it, of course it has to happen, because how on earth are you going to fit your baby in there if something doesn't give? I've
always wondered that. It's crazy, the human anatomy of how it actually works, and to witness it close up, obviously through the pregnancy, of how the body shape changes, how the core stretches. It's an amazing thing, but it is crazy as well.
And if you imagine, organs are having to move around her body to make sure, I mean, it's amazing.
It is.
So basically some women's abdominal, if you imagine a six pack, those three muscles, like two muscles either side, start to stretch apart, and the sheath of tissue that's holding them together, it doesn't snap, it doesn't break or anything, it just stretches a bit more and it's less strong. So if you start seeing that pointy shape down the middle, it's not anything to be afraid of. Don't panic if you're listening to this thinking, oh my God, I've been seeing it for weeks and I haven't done anything. It's just your body's way of telling you, this is too hard for me. Like I can't maintain the tension in my core. So if you're seeing this position, and it might be in all sorts of exercises, you might see it in deadlifts or rows or pull-ups or anything you're doing. It's time to adapt it, to regress it a little bit. So if you're in a plank position, drop the knees, maybe elevate your hands on a bench or a box, and use your breath to try and engage that core. So you'd want to maybe breathe out, exhale as you're about to go, engage the core, see if that helps. You have to basically play around a little bit, because
is that the biggest thing to kind of look out for when you are training? What's it called? Sorry.
Diastasis. Diastasis. Yeah. It's not, you know, it's not dangerous for the baby. And when you say biggest thing to look out for, it's probably the most common physical change that women notice in their training. And also you may get it in everyday things, getting out of bed, getting off the sofa, because, you know, all those movements are like a sit-up. So there's certain exercises like sit-ups and crunches that actually, one, when you start to get your bump, it's just no point. You can't physically do it anyway. But also those kind of exercises aren't really going to be helping you gain any strength that you need, because those six-pack muscles are moving apart, and those are the really, you know, the ones that get addressed in those exercises. So you want to, you know, if you're on your back, turn to your side to get up rather than do one big sit up and things like that, and just monitor it. So it might be that you're doing, you know, a lat pull down or a renegade row, and you think, as I lift it, God, my tummy really starts pointing. So maybe slow it down before you go to pull or lift. Breathe out, engage the core a little bit, then go. And often you'll find that just is enough for the core to be like, okay, I'm switched on, I'm here to help. And it may be that there's some exercises that no matter what you do, you cannot get that tummy to engage properly, and so then maybe they're the exercises you add to your not for now list and just put them to one side. And, you know, if they're in your training session or your class, you just do an alternative exercise that works the same part of the body. So that starts to become more and more prominent as the pregnancy goes on. But as I said, it's not something to be afraid of, even though you might see there's nothing we can do to prevent it. It just happens. So we need to just make sure we protect our body from making any worse. and use it as a sign from our body to us, telling us you need to change this exercise a bit.
Yeah. Do you know, with females who train quite a lot and might have really good core muscles, does it become more painful for them when it's stretching, or
No, it's not.
no?
It's not painful at all. Diastasis
Right.
does not hurt. You don't, because before I got pregnant, I imagined it to be like
Yeah.
a ripping feeling. You don't feel it. I mean, women may get some pain in their core because it's a bit too weak at certain positions, whatever, but it's
Yeah.
not the stretching of the muscles. So it may be that if you've got a stronger core to start with, it may not happen until later, or you may not notice it till later. But having said that, it's bizarre how the stronger you are, it doesn't necessarily mean that
Yeah.
it's not going to happen earlier. The pregnancy does wild things to the body.
It does.
So if you start experiencing that at 8 weeks or whatever, do not start thinking, oh, I must be so weak, that's why it's happened. It's not at all. It's just the body's genetics, how it
Yeah.
moves. So yeah, but there is no pain, so don't panic about that. The reason the pain that's associated with it sometimes can be in your lower back, because obviously as your core, it doesn't switch off, but as it's slightly less effective at supporting you during certain movements, your lower back kicks in a bit more.
Yeah.
And it's all linked to your pelvis, and lots of women get pelvic girdle pain throughout their pregnancy, which, God, I had it a bit. I don't know if your partner did, but it's so horrible, because it really comes at you when you're walking or going up the stairs.
Yeah.
That's often linked to a weakness in the core, different things connecting, your pelvis is moving, everything's a little bit less stable, but the actual abs separating isn't painful, so don't panic about that.
Yeah. So third sort of trimester then, when would you recommend sort of tapering things off, if you would recommend doing that?
Well,
when it comes to training,
there is no recommending really. What I would
Yeah.
say is, if you feel like towards the end or the middle of your third trimester, you're knackered, you feel heavy,
Yeah.
you're not enjoying any exercise that you've currently done, change it up. I definitely don't recommend sitting down and doing nothing, unless
Yeah.
that's all you can do. But if you don't like lifting weights anymore, maybe try swimming. For me, in my last pregnancy, towards the end, I did a lot more swimming than lifting
Yeah.
weights. It felt nice. I felt very light in the water. Or maybe if you've got a spin bike, just keeping your legs moving, because what you don't want to do is get stiff.
Yeah.
Just keep the blood flowing around, keep that healthy blood flow. But some women message me to say, I just did one of your classes and I was in labor. Some women say,
Really?
I did it when I was overdue. Personally, I sort of started tapering things down in the last month towards the end. So like week 35, 36.
I remember sort of my partner, I think in the last couple of weeks, we went for a walk, and we didn't get far at all, and she was like, do you know what, this is a lot. I don't know if I can do much more. We just had to turn around and go back. But I think, like you say, you've got to just sort of listen to your body, haven't you, and go off what feels right for you.
Exactly. And it's no reflection on your fitness levels or strength, or I really want to be a super mom and be trained to the end. It's just what cards you're dealt, really. So personally, I was just keeping my body moving towards the end. And what you don't want to do is be sore by the time you go into labor. You don't want to have trained so hard that you've got DOMs and you can't get into the right positions to give birth. So I would say,
because the energy that you exude through labor is absolutely,
oh my God.
I couldn't believe it. It was amazing to witness. And I spoke about it on my Instagram. It really put a new, not that I didn't have respect for women before, but it really gave me I remember seeing my partner go through what she went through. It made me think about my mum and what every female has to go through. It really changes your perspective once you see it firsthand.
And also, having gone through it afterwards, you sort of like, if I can do that, I can do anything.
Yeah.
Like I felt so, especially my second birth, I felt so empowered throughout it, thinking, I can't believe I'm doing this. And then afterwards, you're just staring at this baby like, oh my God. And it's not to say that if you have extreme sickness and you can't train in your pregnancy, that you're going to have a terrible birth. Not at all. We've had hundreds and hundreds of years of women not exercising and being absolutely fine in pregnancy and birth. So if you're listening to this thinking, oh, I wish I'd done it, it's not going to mean that you're having a terrible birth. But it can only stand to help you, right, if you're feeling strong and confident and you're not in pain and all these things. So when it comes into the third trimester, it's very much like the first, in the sense that you've really got to listen to how your body deals with things. Often the second trimester, you're not that heavy yet. You may be getting your energy back. It's the golden trimester. Then you get into the third, and it's like often some sickness comes back. You're feeling heavy. Things are slowing down. But you can continue doing your weights, doing your yoga, doing whatever, as long as you just listen to your body. And if something doesn't feel right, then don't push through, figure out a different way to do it, or change the exercise altogether, because
Yeah.
you just got to help you're on the same team as your body. I feel like a lot of times our body is aching and we think, oh, I'm so annoyed at it. You're working together.
Yeah, it's aching for a reason as well. It's doing something that must be a job in the background. So I kind of wanted to just ask you, I know that when my partner was going through pregnancy, I saw something about, you hear the quote, "Oh, I'm eating for two" quite a lot, and then I saw something about that's not true, and you definitely sort of shouldn't say that to yourself. So kind of what my question was what's your thoughts on nutrition through pregnancy, and what is your thoughts on you shouldn't be eating for two?
Well, yeah, that is very interesting, and it's a great excuse.
Sorry about that. I was just letting my dog out. She was about to start barking. I think someone's at the door.
It's as a pregnant woman, it's a great thing to say, oh, I'm eating for two, I'm eating for two. And do you know what? There's a big part of me that thinks just enjoy your pregnancy. If you're feeling sick and actually eating crisps or whatever makes you feel better, then you eat that, because it's hard enough as it is than you panicking about eating too much beige food or things like that. So that's a huge part of it. The other part is, in the first and second trimester, you don't actually need any more calories, especially in the first. If you think about how tiny that baby is, it doesn't need a whole extra roast dinner, that is for sure. But your body is working on overtime, so you might feel like you need more energy. So in that sense, yes, you do. But think about, that energy isn't coming from an extra chocolate bar. We need to maybe think about adding some extra nutrient dense ingredients into things. So maybe you're having a smoothie, you want to add in a bit more oats or some nut butter, it's something to help you. So this is advice coming from someone currently not pregnant. It's really easy to give, and then there'll be pregnant women listening thinking, oh, I can't even fathom eating that. So you've got to go with what feels good for you. But when it comes to the third trimester, now I'm not a nutritionist, so that I'm not going to pluck out a number out of thin air, but there are a couple of 100 calories I think that we do need to eat. And again, you want to be drawing those calories from things that are going to help us, so nutrient dense foods. So you maybe adding some nuts and seeds to your breakfast in the morning, an extra banana in the afternoon or whatever. But by that time, it's actually, I don't know if your partner found it, everything's quite squished, so you need to eat little and often, because you get so full so easily, even though your brain is telling you you're ravenous. So it's more about how you get the foods in. So I found eating like 5 times a day better than eating 3 times a day. So I'd eat slightly smaller but more often.
I can't really, it's all a bit of a blur, to be honest, even though it feels like it lasts forever when you go through it, even as the partner of someone's going through it, because your life changes quite a lot as well. Because I'd stopped going out, I'd like stay, we'd do all these kind of things, but it was a little bit of a blur. But I do remember my partner doesn't really have too much of a sweet tooth, but through pregnancy, she got a proper sweet tooth. It came sort of out of nowhere, because I've got a really bad sweet tooth. So we were kind of,
so you were pregnant too. My husband did that as well.
I was pregnant as well, yeah.
He was like, I think we should have some more chocolate, definitely. But it's interesting for me, in my first pregnancy, I've got 2 boys. The first pregnancy, I ate only savory snacks. I wanted crisps, I wanted crackers, I wanted all those savory things. The second pregnancy, I wanted fruit juice, sweets. And so I was like, I must be having a girl, but no, 2 boys. So I feel like, go with what your body's telling you. But there's part of me in the pregnancy that I always crave chocolate, always. Even now I do. But
I think most people do. It's a normal thing.
Because I was pregnant, I was thinking, oh, I think I need it, definitely need it. So if you're panicked, I do get a lot of women say, I've lost a lot of weight and now I'm pregnant, I'm scared of putting the weight back on. I think you have to think to yourself, as long as I know I'm generally 80% of my diet is really good, I'm getting
exactly what I say,
enough nutrients in, then do not make yourself feel bad for having some ice cream or having some chocolate or whatever, because you need to enjoy your life, first of all. And also, pregnancy is blooming hard, like mentally, physically. The baby draws everything out of you, all the goodness out of you, and sometimes you just need a bit of joy in your life. So I'd say, do not panic. You can get your weight back to what you need it to be afterwards. Just go through pregnancy as best you possibly can, drinking lots of water, making sure you're sticking to the same nutrition information you've been taught before, what's worked for you before, stick to that. And if you need to add in extra stuff here and there, then do. I think then you know you'll be fine.
Yeah, I think your hormones change a lot whilst you're pregnant as well, don't they? And that's going to have a massive impact on sort of the way that you look at food, or like your taste buds. Even the fact that you might not be able to move as much, might not be able to exercise as much, that's going to have a knock-on effect to how you like release your endorphins or like your feel-good hormones. So you might need to turn to food instead to get that feeling. And so there is a lot of change, isn't there? So like, I remember saying to my partner, I was like, this is your time to, not that I was saying this is your time to eat nice food, but I'm saying like, don't feel bad for having things. Obviously try and get nutritionally dense food and try and get some good stuff in, but at the end of the day, if you want a chocolate bar, don't feel pressured or anything like that.
Definitely. And I've, over the years, I've trained so many pregnant women, and I've seen, a woman who literally stuck to her diet the whole way through. Not that I gave her a diet in her head. She didn't eat any chocolate, which was baffling to me, but she was so strict with herself. She gained way more weight than another lady I had who, didn't stick to anything healthy, really. So as I said, you get dealt your cards in pregnancy, and sometimes you retain loads of water, and it's nothing that you're doing wrong, just the way it is, and that baby is just giving you a hard time. But yeah, it's a tricky time because you're looking in the mirror and you're just seeing your body changing, and you're literally not in control of it. So the things you can control, I'd say give it a go. But other than that, you sort of have to resign yourself to pregnancy, being like, you do what you need to do, build that baby in there, and we'll figure it out afterwards. So yeah, and you need those nutrient dense foods to feed the baby. The baby is getting what you're getting. So obviously the baby likes a bit of chocolate and crisps every so often, but they need those vitamins and minerals. So if you're struggling to find a motivation to eat well, maybe that will be the thing that will help you.
Yeah, definitely. So can we move on a little bit to sort of post-pregnancy a little bit now? So what do you recommend? I know that you have like is it a 6-week checkup afterwards?
Well, yeah, you really have a 6-week checkup at the GP. But over time, I think it's become widely known that that's not a very comprehensive checkup. For me personally, it was to check my baby, and they were like, "Oh yeah, and how are you?" on my way out. So that it's more that we say, don't exercise before 6 weeks. It's not because of the checkup, really. It's that 6 weeks is a good amount of time for the body to do a lot of natural healing. It needs that time to like move the uterus back to where it was, move all the organs back. And that I find a lot of women get in touch, and they're really frustrated with those 6 weeks. They're like, I want to get going. I was so fit before pregnancy. And it's not because you're not fit. It's not because you're not strong. It's because your body needs to do a lot of stuff before you jump in and start helping it. So in those 6 weeks, I would say you don't need to sit still. When we say don't exercise, doesn't mean you need to sit on the sofa. Of course, you also do need to sit on the sofa, but walking, building up your walking distances and times, stretching is so important, because as you know, you're sitting there feeding, either breastfeeding or bottle feeding, holding that baby to sleep. Your shoulders hunch, you get that excruciating back pain. I had it both times, and I just thought, what? I've stayed so strong in my pregnancy, I can't believe I've had this pain. But it's really normal. So stretching, mobility, that kind of thing you can get on with in the first 6 weeks, as long as you feel okay doing it. Just build it up slowly. And then when you get to 6 weeks or further, some women don't feel ready at 6 weeks, so it doesn't need to be bang on that 6-week mark. You can start to build up your body. So as I said, I've got this 12-week plan, which starts off really gentle. We do Pilates, all body weight to start with, re-engaging the brain with the core, the pelvic floor. Because it's funny, even me, I knew it was coming. I was like, surely I'm not going to lose that brain connection. But you think, okay, engage your core, and you're looking down at your core and you're like, it's not doing anything. So it just takes a little bit of time and practice to reconnect those things. So getting in touch with your breathing again, and it's brilliant, and it's really good to do it slowly. So when I speak to women who say, oh, but I'm like an ex-athlete, do you think I should skip this phase? And I always say to them, no, you need to do it. You don't need to do it as slowly as some women might do it, but you should not skip it, because what I actually have seen is that women who've had a baby can actually rebuild their strength way better than they had been before, because never before you've had a baby would you strip everything all the way back to the beginning, build up your strength from the deepest core muscles all the way out again. And I've had women go, oh my God, I've never been able to do that before I had a baby. So So use this time as a blank slate to build that strength even better than you've ever had it before. So I'd say for the first 2 to however many weeks on you want, just stick with body weight. And I promise you, your muscles will know about it. The first session I did back, few lunges, few squats, few things here and there, no weights in sight. And the next day, my legs were killing. And it's just that body getting used to things again. So Pilates style exercises are really good to use your breath to engage your core before you do any movement. And just building it up slowly. So then when you feel ready, start adding some light weights, maybe resistance bands, and then build it up that way. Now, there's no like, by week 8, you should do this, by week 9, you should do this. Obviously, my plan, I'm guiding you through, but even in that plan, I'm saying to you, if you don't feel good doing this, try that, because we're all going to recover differently from birth. It depends how your birth went, how your body recovers from that, how you feel mentally. You might be so shattered, you can't face doing a workout, which is totally fine. I think the main thing about postnatal is being kind to yourself and patient, because I think women, especially if they've always been into training and suddenly they've got this little baby, determining how much time they have to dedicate to it, it's really frustrating, and it can really get to women, and they think, what have I done? It will get easier once the baby starts to get in a routine and right, they sleep at this time, so that's when I'm going to train or whatever. But at the beginning, you have to rope in help from your partner, your mum, your dad, whoever, and just do what you can when you can, because
I had a little bit of that in a different sense. So I work from home, so I'm at home all the time, and obviously before the baby was here, I kind of had my time to myself. I could work all day long if I wanted to. And then when Bo, my daughter, came along, for the first couple of months, it hit me quite hard, because she wasn't sleeping amazing. So my partner would do kind of the night shift, and I'd wake up like 5 o'clock, take her, and then have her nearly all the morning. And then the morning before was when I'd get up early, I'd get all my work done, and I'd potentially even get to the gym. I'd get like the dog out, and then I'd try when my baby was here, I'd have to start everything from 12 o'clock. So I'd be like 6 to 8 hours behind on what I was doing before. So I had but like you say, as soon as the baby started getting into a bit of routine, it was so much better, and it was like a massive weight off my shoulders. But I completely empathise with what you're saying with
things
training
like unpredictability,
as well.
Isn't it? Because even if she only sleeps for 30 minutes, if you know when that 30 minutes is going to be, then you can prepare yourself, and as soon as she's down, right, I'm going to do my work or do my workout. But if you don't know, and especially you don't at the beginning, for sure, there's so many times where I've got him to sleep and I think, yes, Kate, and then he wakes up 5 minutes in, I think, I haven't done anything. So I think being really patient with yourself and learning the art of being flexible, and your workouts may only now be 30 minutes, but that still counts, and you don't have to wait for the perfect scenario for the baby to be sound asleep to get a whole hour workout in. It just isn't going to happen for a little while. So changing those expectations, I think, is really important, and it's really hard to do. But maybe you do half the workout without your baby and half the workout holding the baby a bit, singing Baa Baa Black Sheep, doing what you need to do. And that still has to count, because right now that's all you're going to be able to do. Maybe you've got childcare, maybe you can do more, but changing what a successful workout looks like is really important, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Why are pelvic floor exercises so important, and why is it important to strengthen around that sort of area?
Okay, so really, women especially, but men also, should be strengthening their pelvic floor forever, throughout our whole lives. But that's not really drummed into us until we're pregnant, and it's like, oh, now I need to do a pelvic floor. Basically, if you imagine the pelvic floor as a hammock, and it holds all our pelvic organs there. So our bowel, our everything that's there your womb is being held by the pelvic floor. Now, obviously, it's going to get heavier and heavier and heavier as the baby grows. And that's a lot of pressure. So the hammock is constantly under pressure. So we need to start or carry on strengthening that to be able to hold everything up. Then obviously through birth, sometimes, I had forceps delivery in my first birth. So that's quite a lot on the pelvic floor, pushing the baby out a lot. If you've got a heavier baby, there's all sorts of things that can mean actually your pelvic floor is really weak after birth. And we just need to continually strengthen it to make sure it can cope with our daily movement. So once you've done your sort of 12 weeks rehab after birth, it's not like, woohoo, don't have to do my pelvic floor anymore. We need to consistently do it. But hopefully, I know that in my plan, I really make sure that I drill it into them. So like they are hearing me saying, lift your pelvic floor, engage, do this. Because I know they must be sick of me saying it, but I want them to ongoing have it as a really robotic movement. They're not even thinking about it. They're doing it as they go. And I think it's very important. We always hear pelvic floor exercises as, oh, just sit there and do 10 squeezes. But whilst that's very good, we need our pelvic floors to be strong in motion. So most women are not going to feel like they're going to wee themselves when they're sitting still or lying down. It would happen when you're running or jumping or going down the stairs. And so we need to be strong in that position.
I never realized that this was like a kind of thing until, like I say, I really got into coaching, and then I had it described to me by a client, and she was like, I can't do jumping jacks, I can't do skipping. And she was like, if you know, you know. And then I was like, Googled it. I was like, oh, right, that's kind of why.
Yeah. And so, it's really demoralizing for women, and it makes them feel really embarrassed. And, first of all, a weak pelvic floor is very common. So don't panic if you're suddenly going, oh my God, she's talking everything I experienced. But it's not normal. So there are so many things you can do. And there's that whole, once you've had a baby, you can never go on a trampoline again. Definitely can, but you need to put in the work. So it's about re-strengthening it. But also, when you've had a baby, you're often holding the baby. Oh, they've dropped their dummy. You do a little weird sort of side lunge squat down to pick it up. It's those movements that we need to make sure that we know how to engage our pelvic floor, so that we can go about our daily lives. And the doorbell rings, you run to get it because the postman's there. You're not going to wee yourself on the way or feel any pain. And that's what we want for our life, surely. So I think it's very important, and I obviously go through this a lot in my classes, to know how to engage the pelvic floor. Now, obviously, when you're training your clients, you're not going to know if they're doing it. Same here, because you can't see it from the outside. So often women are like, how do I know if I'm doing it? So the best way to know if you're doing it is to go and see a physio. A women's health physio, a pelvic health physio. They can do internal examinations, which, by the way, are not painful, and they're not awkward. I obviously panicked so much because my physio is my friend. She was like, "I'll do it for you." I was thinking, "Oh my God, what a weird relationship we're going to have." But it's their job. That's what they do all day, every day, and they can show you, oh, if you breathe like this is how you're doing it, and you can start to understand what it feels like to do it. So you only really need one session. So I know it's expensive and not available to everyone to see a physio, but if you can, I'd say it's a really good thing to spend your money on. Just once after having a baby, go and see a physio, get them to show you how you're doing it, and then you know what you're training or what you're doing right. But for example, when you do a squat, I would say breathe in, relax the pelvic floor on the way down, because we need to relax and strengthen as you stand up. So the hardest part of the squat, you're going to breathe out, think about lifting the pelvic floor as you stand all the way up. And it sounds like a lot to think about. And at the beginning, you think, bloody hell, I've got to lift the weight, do my core, do my pelvic floor. But after a while of practicing it like that, it becomes really second nature.
Same with anything, especially when it comes to training, everything feels like it's alien when you first start doing it. You're doing like a hamstring curl, you're like, how am I not feeling it in the right place? I don't know what I'm doing. And then few weeks into it, you just get onto it and you know exactly what you're doing. You're feeling it right. You're controlling it.
It's the same. It's a muscle, and it needs to be trained like any other muscle. And like I said there, you need to relax it and strengthen it. A lot of us actually have a too tight pelvic floor, which was my issue, actually. My pelvic floor never relaxed. It was always tight. And I think that comes from a sporting background. I've come from gymnastics for years and years and years. And in that, you keep everything really tight all the time. And actually, that meant my pelvic floor was very weak, because if you imagine it like a bicep curl, I curl it all the way up. That's me turning it on. If I only relax it, a tenth of the way down, when I next want to strengthen it, I've not got much range of motion. Whereas if I can relax it all the way out and I want to turn it on, I have a huge range of motion. So it's really important we learn also how to relax it. Same with our core. Relax, engage. It needs to go through that whole range of motion to be effective, rather than just be on all the time. So there's lots of cues you can listen to, like breathe out, engage, lift. But if you're not sure, I would definitely recommend going to see a pelvic health physio if you can. It's that whole, you need to learn what it feels like because you can't see it. But it's important for us to just stay strong for the rest of our lives. So it's something you want to invest in a little bit while you can, and then just keep doing it.
Yeah, it's the old adage, isn't it? And it's quite cheesy, but there is no better investment than like invested in yourself. So yeah, kind of wanted to move on a little bit because like you work with a lot of mums, so you've probably got a really good perspective on this. But I know my partner felt it a lot, and you might have felt it a little bit being in the limelight, having a presence on social media. How did you find the pressure of becoming a mum and all the information out there and everyone sort of giving the 2p? And how do you find that, and how do you find the mums that you work with find it?
Well, it's great and hard. So obviously we've got Instagram now, and my mum would say to me, "My God, how nice, you've got things to look at, people to talk to." It was really lonely not having all of that. So I can imagine what it would have been like to just have your neighbour to talk to. And so I find that actually I learn a hell of a lot through Instagram, through other mums saying, "This is what I did, try this, try that." There's the other side of things where you have the mum police who will call you out on every little thing you do. So, I had the carrier on, it was ever so slightly too low or too high. Suddenly I get bombarded with messages. "You're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong."
Lots
and you
of
think,
Karens.
lots of Karens. And often the message they're telling you is lovely. You're like, "Thank you for telling me that, but don't shout at me. Just say it kindly. I'm clearly a first-time mum. I didn't know." So I think there's a lot of pressure on showing the right thing. Now I really try. I've got 2 accounts. Bumps and Burpees is all my fitness stuff, and Charlie Launder is my sort of motherhood journey and just showing what we do day to day. I really try and show the days where it's hard, because I think often we can scroll through thinking, "Oh my God, everyone's got it so together, and I'm here in my pajamas, haven't washed my hair in days, got sick on my shoulder, my baby's crying." And there are so many of us like that too, but it's not often that you think, "Oh, my baby's having a tantrum, I know, I'm going to film it." You're actually just trying to help. So I think it's really important to remember to take things with a pinch of salt, that it's a snapshot of somebody's day, and even if they're showing a bad part, that day might have got better, it might have got worse. It's a snapshot, and people can curate it however they like. So I really like it because I get an insight into what other people are doing, and I get ideas, recipes to try with them, sleep techniques to try with them, things like that. And I think it's amazing. But you just have to remember to stick to your own instincts. And if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means something else works. My eldest didn't drop his first nap, for example, till he was ages older than most people did. And for him, it worked. I tried to do what other people told me to do, and it wasn't working. And so I thought, actually, do you know what? He's his own kid. This works for him and us. And so I think you learn as you go through parenthood that your instinct is so right, and you have to trust it. It's confident. You need to build the confidence. Second time round, I was like, I know exactly what I need to do for various things. First time round, it's overwhelming. There's a lot of information out there. And everyone tells you what they think is right because it worked for them. So they're very passionate about being like, "You must do this." And actually, you don't have to. You listen to advice, you think, "Okay, I'll try this, I don't want to do that." And you make your own recipe for motherhood and fatherhood, and pick things that work for you and leave things that don't.
We're very relaxed people, so we took it nice and easy, and we're like, right, we're just going to go with the flow. But the amount of information, I know my partner found it quite overwhelming. Everyone like saying, especially being in the public eye, the amount of messages she was getting about, "You've got to do this certain way," and the amount of messages she was getting about, "Oh, you're not doing that right." And I remember when I put a piece of content out, this was 3.5 months postpartum, and we'd spent quite a long time walking, getting the steps up, taking it nice and easy. And then we went into the gym, we did some really light exercises, we did body weight, we did like just a little bit on the Stairmaster, a little bit of incline walk, things like that. And then we started to increase it. And then I was putting things out on my social media showing like what she was doing. And then people were comparing themselves to her, which you should never do, but also like having to go at me for sharing things. I was like, look, she wanted to get back into training. I'm a coach, obviously I'm going to help her, but she wanted to get more back into training for her mental health, not just her physical health. And that was overlooked a lot by people just saying, "Oh, you shouldn't be sharing stuff, like you shouldn't like you're putting pressure on women." I was like, whoa.
I mean, you saw what happened to Joe Wicks a few weeks ago when he shared his wife, how proud he was of his wife. She felt so strong again. He got absolutely slated by women, and everyone has their own opinion, and of course it triggered a lot of women who maybe are struggling to get back into shape, or they have had a really traumatic birth and they're not ready yet. And I felt for him, actually, coming from his side, I think I totally understand. They've got a unique situation where they've got a lot of childcare, they've got a lot more money than some, they've got
Yeah.
a gym in their house, all these kind of things. But he can't do a post about how proud he is of his wife and then say, but if you've got a prolapse, or if you've got this, or
Yeah.
if you've got
It's
that,
so
you might
hard to
not be.
cover everything.
Oh, you
Like, yeah.
can't. And people need to take responsibility
Yeah.
and know that they can't compare themselves to that. Personally, I've got genetics that allow my metabolism to be slightly higher than some. I build
Yeah.
muscle fairly quickly. I don't know. I've come from, as I said, I've trained all my life in
Yeah.
various sports.
It
So
definitely helps having a long time of doing it, like muscle memory. I
exactly.
believe
But
you
then
did gymnastics as well
yeah, I did
from a
gymnastics
podcast.
for a
Yeah.
young age. And I think, you know, I started doing some core exercises earlier than some might have done, or I
Yeah.
ran before some. And I have women, most of my followers are actually absolutely lovely and very supportive, but I have a few being like, oh God, you know, makes me feel bad about myself. And you just, as you said, you can't please everybody,
No.
but you have to remember that seeing someone on Instagram, so someone might see a picture, a video of me squatting a certain weight or whatever, thinking, oh my God, how she got to that? Or, you know, that's nothing compared to what I do. You don't know my whole history. You don't know how it felt for me to squat that. That might have been my very last set and it was my worst set, or maybe it was
Yeah.
my best. And I think we have to remember not to compare ourselves to someone else, because I might compare myself to an Olympic athlete thinking, oh, I'm so weak, I'm so slow. Of course I am. They've had years of training and they've got a team around them. And,
Yeah.
you know, I think comparison, we all know it's a thief of joy, but it's
Yeah.
impossible not to compare. And I think when your body's gone through such a huge change and you're looking for anything to, you know, empower you and motivate you, you're going to find things that trigger you for sure.
Yeah.
But try to flip it and say, if they can do it, why can't I? And, you know, I might get there a bit slower than them, but
Yeah.
let's use them as inspiration rather than hating on everyone. I really feel like women should just support each other.
100%. And I think that's the whole problem with social media. You can either use it as a tool to educate yourself, to like inspire you, to learn from people, or you can use it as a tool to compare, to look at negative things, or to look at things in a negative way. I remember when I shared, I've done a couple of training videos since with my partner, and there was like a couple of messages. One person said, my partner was, it looked a lot heavier than what
If you
she
had
was
bumper
doing.
plates, right?
Yeah, literally, she had a 15-kilogram bar and she had two 5-kilogram plates on each side, which is 25-kilogram, which in the grand scheme of things isn't a hell of a lot, but it looked a lot worse. And like she said, she shouldn't be using that much weight. And I said, let's say, for example, my partner is 70-kilogram and she is squatting with 25-kilogram on the bar. That's 95-kilogram. Would you tell someone that's 95-kilogram that they couldn't squat down and pick something up off the floor?
Very true. Yeah.
So I was like, it's relative to each person. Another person commented saying, and bear in mind, she didn't do a deadlift in this video that I put on. And another person commented saying, oh, you can't deadlift that. I've read an article, you can't deadlift that long after a pregnancy. I was like, I commented back saying, do you know what a deadlift is? She's not doing one. And then she put, oh, well, I meant just weightlifting. I was like, no, you wrote down about deadlifting that you read about. So and it's just people.
But you know, I think people, often I get comments like that. They come in the middle of the night, and I have to remember,
yeah,
when a woman is up feeding their baby for the fourth time in that night and they're absolutely shattered, they're angry. And if they see someone succeeding online or doing well, I think they can take their anger out on other people, and they're so jealous that it's looking like that person has it all together. But they don't know that after that session, your wife might have had an absolute breakdown because her baby wouldn't go to sleep and she was crying, and you don't know, you just don't know. And I feel like I have a friend who had a really tricky recovery from her birth, and she outright said to her other friend who didn't, I'm very jealous of you, and it's triggering to me that you're sailing through this recovery and I'm not. And it was amazing that she was honest about it, because then we knew if she was being a bit tetchy about things, that's why. And I think Instagram, people are keyboard warriors, and someone would write that and then move on and forget they've written it, but it would ruin your day because you think, oh my God, I'm just trying to do something helpful. And, you know, if she was lifting that weight with terrible form, her back was going all over the place, then fair enough for some comments. But if she was doing it correctly, people need to pipe down, quite frankly.
Love that. But like you say, 99% of comments are amazing. There's always the 1%, and it always comes from a place of negativity, things potentially not going right in someone's life. We had some more comments, and this is a bit of an unlock to any sort of people thinking about wanting to become pregnant soon. Join a CrossFit gym, because CrossFit gyms are really welcoming about being able to take your baby into the gym. So I had 24 access to the gym, so I took my partner, and we were able to take our baby with us into the gym, and there was no one in the gym. And then we were getting comments like, "Oh, look at you, you're privileged. Like, you've got your own gym, like taking your baby." It's like, no, anyone can do this at a CrossFit gym. Like, they're quite welcoming to be able to do that. They're inclusive.
Yeah.
Like,
it's mad. You can't win. You can't win,
No.
can you? You just need to do what you know you're doing right, and
let
people say what they want to say. But hopefully the positive comments can outweigh that, and that you stick to your guns. And if you know what she's doing is right, she knows what's right.
Yeah.
You just carry on. And they would be complaining if you weren't showing videos. So
exactly.
You can't win, can you?
Yeah, well, I think we've pretty much covered everything there, but I really enjoyed that chat, Charlie. I appreciate you coming on and educating sort of the audience and people sort of listening that want to know more about sort of postnatal fitness.
Well, my DMs are always open, so if anyone has questions,
what's your Instagram? Where can people find you?
Well, so that you can find me at Bumps and Burpees, which is all that's all the fitness side of things, and classes and workouts and stuff. And then Charlie Launder is where I just share my personal training, my day-to-day stuff with the boys. I've got a 1-year-old and a nearly 3-year-old, so it's a bit mad, but hopefully it helps people relate to their life. But my DMs are always full of people asking me can I get your advice on this? And I know pregnancy is a funny time and you don't know what's going on, so always happy to help answer questions on that.
Perfect. Well, I'll make sure to put the links in the description on the YouTube and podcast. But yeah, thank you very much for that. I appreciate that, and we'll catch up soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Cheers.